In the soft glow of crystal chandeliers, where a single meal could cover a month's rent, Lily Carter stood with a trembling tray, her worn black and white uniform clinging to her slight frame. Her scuffed shoes squeaked faintly as she shifted her weight, her brown hair pulled into a messy bun, strands slipping loose after a grueling shift. For 2 years, she'd been a ghost in this upscale restaurant, pouring wine, wiping tables, invisible to the elite who dined here. But tonight, her steady eyes were locked on a contract lying on the polished table, a document as dangerous as a loaded gun. The room buzzed with power, men and women in tailored suits, their confidence filling the air like perfume. At the head sat Alexander Grant, a 33-year-old billionaire whose name was whispered in awe and fear. His dark hair was slicked back, his jaw sharp enough to cut glass, and his presence commanded silence. Flanked by lawyers with open briefcases and foreign partners with tight smiles and glinting watches, he was about to sign a billion-dollar international trade deal, the kind that could reshape entire industries. Lily, the waitress, wasn't supposed to be here, not really, just a shadow refilling glasses. But she leaned closer, her voice a soft, urgent whisper only Alexander could hear. "Stop. Don't sign." The table erupted in laughter, the sound sharp and mocking, as if her words were a punchline. Seconds later, Alexander did something that silenced the room, leaving everyone stunned. Before we dive deeper, let me pause for a moment. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever felt invisible or dismissed, do me a favor, grab your phone, hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to Midnight Tales. It keeps stories like this alive, reminding us we're not alone. Now, let's get back to Lily. The laughter stung, but she didn't flinch. Her hands, still damp from wiping tables, tightened around the tray, but her gaze stayed fixed on the contract. The first to snap was Richard, a mid-50s lawyer with a comb-over that didn't hide his thinning hair. "What are you staring at? Get back to serving," he sneered, his voice dripping with condescension. Heads turned, smirks spreading as his eyes raked over her uniform, her plain face, her scuffed shoes. "She probably can't even read a utility bill, let alone a trade contract," he chuckled, loud enough for the room to hear. The table roared again, the sound like a slap. Lily set a wine glass down, slow and deliberate, her movements precise, like she was placing a piece of herself on the table. Margaret, a venture capitalist with a sharp bob and a designer scarf, tilted her head, her stare cold enough to peel paint. "You're standing too close. It's unprofessional. Don't you have training?" she said, her voice clipped, as if Lily's presence was an insult. The room hummed with approval, heads nodding. Lily paused, the wine bottle tilting, a single drop splashing onto the tablecloth. She wiped it with a napkin, stepped back, her face blank but her eyes flickering with something sharp. Margaret smirked, satisfied, dismissing her without a glance. Claire, a business partner with glossy blonde hair and a smile that never reached her eyes, leaned toward the man beside her, her voice carrying. "Honestly, who let her stand so close? It's embarrassing." Her manicured nails tapped the table, her diamond bracelet catching the light. "She's probably dreaming of being one of us. Poor thing." The words, wrapped in fake pity, landed like knives. Lily's jaw tightened for a split second, but she poured the next glass with steady hands, her face a mask of calm. The laughter grew, feeding on itself. Ethan, a young lawyer with a smug grin and a suit screaming new money, pointed at Lily's shoes. "Maybe she's hoping for a tip big enough to buy decent ones," he said, and the room chuckled again, the sound rolling over her. Lily's hand paused mid-pour, the bottle hovering, her shoulders squaring slightly, bracing for the storm. Alexander's pen stopped moving, his eyes flicking to her face for the first time. Another voice joined in, Paul, a junior partner with slicked back hair and a watch worth more than Lily's yearly rent. "It's kind of sad," he said, swirling his wine glass, his tone dripping with false sympathy. "Some people just don't know their place. Stick to pouring wine, sweetheart. Leave the real work to us." The table snickered, a low, ugly sound. Lily's fingers brushed the edge of her tray, her knuckles whitening briefly before she relaxed them. She set the bottle down, her movements deliberate, carving out space in a room that wanted to erase her. Her whisper had come from nowhere, born from a buried part of her. Once, she'd been at the top of her law school class, tearing through contracts like puzzles. But that was before the accident, before her world unraveled, before she traded textbooks for a waitress apron. Now, risking everything, she'd spoken out of turn in a room that saw her as less than a human. Alexander froze, his pen hovering over the page. The room didn't notice at first, too caught up in their chatter, but the silence spread like a ripple. The laughter returned, sharper now. Richard slammed his hand on the table, his face red. A waitress, eavesdropping. Are you kidding me? He looked at Alexander, expecting agreement, but Alexander's face was unreadable. Claire crossed her arms, her lips curling. What? She thinks she's part of this now. Unbelievable. Ethan grinned wider. You trust a waitress over your lawyers, Grant. That's a new low. The room buzzed with scoffs and chuckles. Lily stood firm, her empty tray in hand, her eyes locked on the contract. Diana, a corporate consultant with a pearl necklace, scanned Lily from head to toe, lingering on her shoes. This is why we have standards, she said crisply. People like her shouldn't be near a deal this important. It's distracting. Can someone get her out? The room nodded, a murmur of agreement rippling through. Lily's lips parted, but she said nothing, adjusting her grip on the tray, meeting Diana's gaze. The consultant's smile faltered for a split second. Hey, if you're still here, thank you. This story's for anyone who's been pushed down, made to feel small. If that's you, stick with me on Midnight Tales, hit that like button, comment, and subscribe. Let's keep telling these stories. The foreign partners shifted uncomfortably. Victor, with slicked back hair and a gold chain, leaned forward, his accent thick with anger. This is an insult. Who gave her the right to meddle in a billion-dollar deal? His partner, Klaus, nodded, his tone icy. Throw her out. The restaurant manager, Tom, hurried over, his face flushed with panic, grabbing Lily's arm. You're destroying your career, he hissed, loud enough for the table to hear. Get out now. Lily didn't budge, her eyes never leaving Alexander. A wealthy guest, dripping in perfume and a first dole, whispered loudly, maybe she's trying to seduce him. The table laughed again, cruel and jagged. Lily's fingers curled into her palms, but she stayed silent, her stillness louder than their words. Charles, the lead negotiator in a pinstriped suit, stood, his chair scraping. This is absurd, he snapped, pointing at Lily. She's a nobody meddling in things she can't understand. The room grew colder, agreement thick in the air. Lily set her tray on a side table, her movements slow, claiming her space. Charles's voice faltered as he sat, unnerved by her calm. Alexander tapped his pen, the sound sharp like a gavel. Let her speak, he said, his voice low, cutting through the chaos. The room fell silent, the clink of glasses from the bar suddenly audible. Lily's voice was steady as she pointed at the contract. Appendix 14B. They're forcing you to transfer technology rights with no legal safeguards. The words hung in the air, clear and precise. The lawyers froze. Richard's face paled, Ethan fumbled through the contract, pages slipping. Victor and Klaus exchanged tight glances, their hands fidgeting. Lily stood still, her finger on the page, her eyes locked on Alexander. A waiter passing by slowed, his tray wobbling, eyes wide with shock. Ethan finally found the clause, his face falling. She's right, he muttered. The silence was deafening. Sylvia, a financial advisor, let out a brittle laugh. She's parroting something she overheard. You can't take her seriously. Her eyes darted for support, but the mood had shifted. Richard slammed his fist down. Don't listen to this waitress. It's slander. Tom stepped closer, yelling, Lily, get out. The wealthy guest sneered, she's paid to wipe tables, not read contracts. A bodyguard reached for Lily's shoulder, but she didn't move, her eyes daring Alexander to see her. A busboy, Miguel, dropped a glass, the shatter slicing through the tension. His eyes, wide with awe, stayed on Lily as he scrambled to clean up. Alexander laid his pen down. "If she's wrong, she's fired," he said, his voice like steel. "If she's right, she stays." Lily stepped closer, her voice unwavering. Section 337 of the U.S. Tariff Act prohibits unfair trade practices, including forced technology transfers without safeguards. The clause is unenforceable. Ethan nodded, almost against his will. "She's correct." The silence deepened. George, a senior lawyer, leaned forward, his voice low. "This is a stunt. She's embarrassing us all." He stared at Lily, expecting her to crumble, but she lifted her chin, her silence a weapon. The foreign partner's excuses tumbled out, Victor's hands waving, Klaus's face red. Claire's smile vanished, Ethan's grin replaced by panic. Alexander watched Lily, his fingers tight around the pen. A server, Rachel, whispered loudly, "She's out of her mind talking like that." Lily folded a napkin neatly, reclaiming the moment. Victor spat, "She's a dropout. That's why she's waiting tables." Claire nodded. "A nobody." But Lily stood tall, unflinching. Then Alexander tore the contract in half, the sound echoing. Victor jumped up, shouting, "You'll regret this." Alexander didn't look at him. "I'd rather trust a stranger's instinct than sign my own death warrant." Gasps rippled through the room. Tom screamed at Lily, "You've humiliated me." The bodyguard grabbed her shoulder, but Alexander stood, his voice booming. "She's not going anywhere. Lily Carter is my special legal advisor." The room froze. Tom's hand fell away, Claire's bracelet clattered, Ethan stared at the floor. Laura, a silent partner, stood. "I owe you an apology," she said to Lily. "We all do." Lily nodded, her hands steady. Her past flashed before her, late nights studying law, her brother's accident, dropping out to survive. Now, she'd pulled that old self forward. The next day, Tom was fired. Richard's firm lost Alexander's account. A viral post on X exposed Claire's comments, her deals drying up. Victor and Klaus left, their reputations bruised. Ethan was demoted. A regular, Daniel, approached Lily, slipping her a law firm's business card. "You were incredible," he said. "Don't let them make you small." Lily tucked the card away, a small smile breaking through. A week later, a letter from Alexander's office offered her a real position, the salary making her hands shake. She folded it into her bag, her steps steady as she walked home. Alexander returned to the restaurant, alone, nodding to her as she set a glass of water on his table. "Thank you," she said softly. He nodded, his face softening. A regular, Henry, approached her. "You did something most wouldn't have the guts to do. I'm proud of you." Lily's tray dipped, her throat tight, but she nodded and returned to work, her steps lighter. She moved through the restaurant, the clink of glasses and murmur of voices fading into the background. She didn't look back, she didn't need to. The world had tried to break her, but she'd stood her ground. For everyone who's been pushed down, told they don't belong, this is for you. You're not alone. Keep walking, head high. Subscribe to Midnight Tales, like this video, and comment where you're watching from. Let's keep sharing stories of heartbreak, betrayal, and healing.